If one day you look up at the night sky and wonder, why does the moon look pockmarked, like a cake that's been stabbed? Then please remember, those aren't ordinary cracks. They are the scars of time, of terrifying cosmic collisions, of a history no book on Earth has ever fully recorded. And yet, those very scars tell a story greater than any myth ever written. The moon, a solitary satellite orbiting the Earth, is not merely a poetic symbol or a muse for dreamers. It is a living archive, preserving within its surface the violent history of impacts that have occurred over more than 4 billion years. The craters, which from afar appear as harmless dimples, are in fact the clearest evidence of the solar system's chaotic past. A place where collisions were the norm, not the exception. Unlike Earth, where geological scars are often erased by rain, volcanoes, earthquakes, or life. The moon is a place where time seems to have stopped. No atmosphere, no water, no life. So, when a meteorite strikes its surface at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour, the resulting moon remains nearly unchanged. It doesn't heal. It doesn't vanish. It remains a silent reminder that here, once, the forces of matter and gravity collided in a fiery moment. Carl Sagan once said, "The moon is an outdoor museum of cosmic collisions, and it requires no guard." Indeed, every crater is an artifact, every fracture a testimony, and strangely, much of what we know about the formation and evolution of rocky planets in the solar system, including Earth, comes from studying the scars on the moon. For instance, scientists have discovered that around 9 billion years ago, the moon experienced a period called the Late Heavy Bombardment, a time when countless celestial bodies, large and small, bombarded its surface. The interesting part, Earth was also heavily bombarded during that era, but due to its active geology, those records were wiped clean. Meanwhile, on the moon, everything remains. As a result, by analyzing rock samples from impact basins like Imbrium or Serenitatis, researchers can reconstruct ancient images of Earth itself, like reading the diary of a quieter neighbor. But the role of impact craters goes beyond being memory vaults. They help science explore the moon's inner structure. When a meteorite strikes, the energy released is enough to expose deep layers, sometimes the crust, the mantle, or even traces of a metallic core. NASA and other space agencies have capitalized on this by placing seismic sensors near deliberate impact sites, such as when a spacecraft was intentionally crashed into the moon, to listen to how the shockwaves travel. This has allowed them to map the moon's underground structure, something nearly impossible to do with more distant celestial bodies like Europa or Titan. Craters also tell us about the surface's age. Deep, sharp-edged craters without overlapping marks are young. Rounder, more overlaid ones are older. From this, scientists build the moon's relative geological history without complex dating techniques. Just by observing a region filled with craters, they can estimate how many cosmic punches it has endured. Some geologists even liken the moon to a blackboard upon which the universe has been scribbling for millions of years, and no one has ever erased it. A poetic image, but completely accurate. More astonishingly, through craters, humans not only learn about the moon, but also infer things beyond what we can see. At one point, it was suspected that a third body once orbited Earth and later collided with the moon. Though this theory remains unproven, it underscores the power of deduction from cracks on a glowing rock in the sky. Each impact might be a clue to a grander movement, a silent migration of matter out there. Another fascinating aspect, craters are considered prime candidates for future moon bases. Deep craters, especially near the poles, can shield against cosmic radiation. Some even harbor signs of ice water, a precious resource for sustaining life or creating fuel, which means the moon's past wounds may become human shelters in the future. We tend to feel pity for what is damaged. But in astronomy, scars aren't just consequences, they're priceless assets. On the moon, nothing is wasted. Every dent is a story, every crack an open chapter. They make no sound but for those patient enough to read. They reveal the silent language of the cosmos. And perhaps that's what makes the moon so unique, not as a glowing silver sphere, but as a vault of screams from the past, held in the silence of the present. Across the moon's surface, there are places where, even with a simple telescope, one can feel the power the universe once unleashed upon it. Giant rings, bright streaks stretching for hundreds of kilometers. terrain blasted apart like wounds still bleeding, all marks of collisions whose force and timing are nearly beyond comprehension. One of the most astonishing scars is the South Pole Aitken Basin, stretching from the southern to the northern polar region. It's not only the largest impact basin on the moon, but also one of the largest in the entire solar system. With a diameter over 500 kilometers at a depth of nearly 8 kilometers, it's roughly the size of India. Imagine a massive celestial object, perhaps hundreds of kilometers wide, slamming into the moon at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. The impact didn't just gouge the surface, it could have sent seismic waves reaching the core, making the entire rocky sphere ring like a struck bell. Studies from Japanese and American probes show a gravitational anomaly at the basin center, possibly the buried core of the impactor. This isn't just a crater, it's a burial site over 4 billion years old. Next is the Imbrium Basin, something most of us have seen without realizing it. When you look at the moon and spot a large, dark circular area, that's the Imbrium Basin, the remnant of an impact, comparable to dozens of nuclear bombs exploding simultaneously. Interestingly, the rays extending from the center, known as ejecta rays, are rock and dust blasted outward during impact. The ancient Romans imagined these rays as feathers from a divine bird, but now we know they are remnants of a cataclysmic quake from the moon's youth. But not all impacts are just dry science. Some carry myths. The Tycho crater, about 85 kilometers wide, is a prime example. Located near the moon's southern region, Tycho is striking because of its bright rays stretching for hundreds of kilometers, like slashes radiating outward. What's surprising is that this crater is relatively young, only about 108 million years old, formed when dinosaurs still roamed Earth. Perhaps while a sauropod strolled through Gondwana's meadows. A meteorite smashed into the moon, creating Tycho. One moment, two worlds. A silent explosion that forever changed the moon's face. We must also mention the Copernicus crater, about 93 kilometers in diameter, with a raised central peak and concentric walls. It's one of the most geometrically perfect craters, making it a living textbook for astronomers. The interior slopes of Copernicus contain compressed rock layers arranged like steps resembling terraced fields, yet formed by an impact with energy millions of times that of Krakatoa's volcanic eruption. Some scholars call Copernicus the stone throne of lunar history, for it retains its shape almost perfectly, despite being over 800 million years old. But it's not only ancient impacts that matter. In historical records, there is a strange account from the year 1178. A group of monks in Canterbury, England, described that they saw a flaming torch above the moon, split in two, flickering and fading like a flame blown out by wind. Modern scientists have matched this time with a small but very young crater, Giordano Bruno, and proposed the hypothesis that they may have witnessed a meteorite impact with the naked eye. If this hypothesis is true, it would be the only recorded instance in history of humans observing a celestial body striking the moon from Earth. A historical moment, captured not through telescopes, but with human eyes and the attentiveness of those who lived nearly 900 years ago. Beyond that, there are thousands upon thousands of other craters, small, large, and shallow, deep each one a stroke of time's pen, writing fragments of the past onto stone. And not only in physical or geological terms, these craters have also sparked human imagination. Ancient cultures gazed upon these scars to craft their legends. The jade rabbit pounding medicine, the man banished to the moon, or the moon being devoured by a dragon. Whether metaphor or myth, one truth was universally sensed. Its surface was not smooth, not perfect, but full of traces, full of stories. The modern world has begun returning to those scars. Missions like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter have captured images down to the square meter. Future projects like Artemis or the Gateway Space Station are exploring the idea of placing research stations near ancient impact zones to better understand rock structures, temperature conditions, and especially ice water, a potential life-sustaining resource for those who may set foot there in the coming decades. If the moon is a stone-bound book, then its craters are its densest, most dramatic paragraphs. They do not only tell stories with their shape and depth, they speak through silence. The silence of an explosion long past, yet never forgotten. Thousands of years ago, before the first astronomical charts were drawn, before telescopes existed, humans already looked up at the sky, mesmerized by that gentle yet mysterious light. the moon. Not merely a cold rock, not just a satellite orbiting Earth, all in our ancestors' eyes. The moon was spirit, was living mythology, and the scars upon it, the pockmarks we now know to be caused by meteorites, were once explained through tales that still send shivers today. The ancient Chinese spoke of a jade rabbit living on the moon, pounding the elixir of immortality for Chang'e, a woman condemned to lunar exile after stealing the divine medicine. On bright nights, they saw the rabbit's silhouette on the moon's uneven surface and believed it to be the immortal creature tirelessly working. The craters with their irregular shapes, at times forming blurry clusters, were imagined as legs, ears, the body of the rabbit. Children raised in that culture did not fear the moon. They saw it as a home of celestial beings. The Maya, among the most astronomically advanced ancient civilizations, believed the moon to be the embodiment of a water goddess. The moon's phases full, crescents, vanished represented the goddess's moods. The blotchy dark spots on the surface were seen as the aftermath of her tears, rage, or wounds. In Mayan culture, lunar mythology was not just storytelling. It was a guide for agricultural calendars, planting cycles, and even wedding seasons. In the West, the ancient Greeks were no less imaginative. They named the moon Selene, the goddess of night's light, with flowing silver hair and a chariot drawn by 4 white horses. They didn't know of craters, but the dark smudges made them think of the wrinkled brow of an emotional deity. Some philosophical writings even theorized that the dark marks were portals between heavenly realms, windows through which souls of the dead could gaze back upon the living world through moonlight. In pre-Islamic Arab culture, lunar stories took a more bizarre turn. One legend speaks of the man banished to the moon as punishment for stealing firewood. It's believed that, on a full moon night, one can see the figure of a man carrying a bundle of sticks on his back, silhouetted against the silvery disk. Under flickering light, the pits and shadows shape themselves into a little man eternally atoning in the sky. In many African cultures, the moon symbolizes the cycle of life. The Zulu tell of a god thrown into the sky by a rival, crashing down and shattering, thus forming the moon, scarred and broken. They believe the craters are places where the god's blood soaked into the heavens, leaving the moon permanently wounded. Some tribes even believe the dark patches are eyes of ancient spirits watching over humankind, evoking both reverence and fear. The Japanese take a gentler view. In their folklore, a mochi rice cake maker lives on the moon. The round craters and dark areas form the image of a man seated by a mortar, pounding mochi for the gods. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, Japanese children often draw rabbits and rice mortars instead of simple round moons. This soft imagery helps them connect to the universe through friendliness and tenderness. The Norse, famous for brutal mythology, saw things differently. To them, the moon is a chariot endlessly chased by a monstrous wolf named Hati. The dark markings on the moon are claw marks and bite wounds. Each crescent moon marks a near capture. And one day, in Ragnarok, the Norse apocalypse, the wolf will devour the moon, and darkness will forever blanket the sky. In Vietnam, for centuries, people have spoken of Khoi, a man sitting at the base of a banyan tree on the moon. Legend says he was pulled into the sky by a magical tree for breaking his promise, and since then, has lived alone there. On full moon nights, one sees the shape of a tree and a man, a figure formed by a cluster of light and dark crater regions. This story wasn't just a lullaby, it taught the values of trust, of keeping one's word, and the loneliness of going against destiny. From every angle, one truth becomes clear. People across cultures, regardless of geography, have been fascinated by the moon's bumps and hollows. When science was absent, they used myth. When measurements were impossible, they imagined, and through this, the moon, a cold, pockmarked sphere, became a stage for millennia of legends, where gods, outcasts, rabbits, trees, and spirits, and monsters all coexist. Each dark spot, each indentation is a symbol, and sometimes a single glance at the sky isn't just looking, but connecting with the collective memory of humanity. We often gaze at the moon on peaceful nights, when the city's horns have gone silent and the sky seems wider, deeper. In that silvery light, perhaps you've once wondered, why is it not smooth like a pearl, but full of dense, deep craters and dark blemishes like unhealed wounds? Maybe you see it merely as a satellite, a lifeless stone orbiting Earth, But if you observe quietly, question deeper, you'll realize the moon is whispering stories of a buried past, not just its own, but of the violent history of the space we inhabit. No place in the solar system is as close to us as the moon. It has no atmosphere to hide its scars, no wind or rain to wash away its pits, no geological activity to bury its wounds. That's why it has become a perfect mirror of the most forceful blows the solar system has ever delivered. A stone diary written in meteorites, chronicling violent events, and above all, it cannot lie. The moon's impact marks are a warning that the universe is not peaceful. Giant rocks, drifting silently across millions of kilometers, can strike any planet or satellite, sometimes bringing disaster, other times opportunity. One theory suggests that a colossal impact with Earth billions of years ago birthed the moon, that from destruction. New life emerged from ruin. A new balance formed. From ashes rose the cold light of a sphere that now hovers like a marble in the sky. And today, as humanity begins to dream of settling beyond Earth on the moon, Mars, or further those scars once again become maps. They guide us, provide data, open the path to ice water, shelter from cosmic radiation, or simply sites to store ancient samples. What was once seen as damage is now of value. A collision from millions of years ago becomes part of tomorrow's mission plans. But beyond the scientific worth, the moon and its scars still serve a deeper role, prompting reflection. In a world where people are drowning in trivial distractions, the moon remains silently circling Earth. A speechless witness, it doesn't need to speak, for its shape with all its cracks, impact marks, and dim patches already asks a question no one has fully answered. If the moon holds all records of the cosmos' fury, are we Earth's dwellers living in a more dangerous realm than we believe? Or, perhaps, it's those very wounds that help us grasp the value of peace, of fragile life on this planet. Because while the moon holds only stone scars and shadows, Earth has rivers, trees, and laughter, and memory things no collision can ever recreate if lost. So if one day you look up at the moon again, don't see just the silvery light. See the scars, the soundless warnings echoing in the mind. What do you think? Are those collisions mere cosmic accidents, or are they notes left by nature for us to read before we take another step? What do you believe more, in a wounded moon or a moon trying to say something? Share your thoughts, because maybe each of us, when looking at that scarred sky, will see a different story, yet all are human, quietly reading a cosmic diary carved in stone.